And I'm sitting at the port, surrounded by trucks, and we all lined up to wait for the end of the lunch break, which started at 11:30 and it's gonna end only at 1 o'clock. This is Baltimore, Maryland. So, and it's hot as hell, and I don't want to run the engine. It's probably plus 30 Celsius for sure. So I decided to be cunning and smart yesterday, right? So if you saw my previous episode of Heavy Haul TV, I got through that Northumberland curfew after 7 in Pennsylvania, and I was at the 83 Diner. There's I think it's exit 28 of I-83 in Pennsylvania, and they have lots of parking. It's a diner, but they're very strict about parking, so you have to spend either $10 inside the restaurant, and it's a pretty good restaurant, or you have to pay $10 for overnight parking. But it was okay, you know, it's clean, there's washrooms, everything. So I had some dinner, $12, so they gave me a big piece of paper that I had to stick on my door, driver's side door. And whole night there was a guy in a pickup truck with a flashing light driving around checking if anybody just sneaked in without paying. Why don't they just install a gate, you know, or something? But because this is, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you think aliens are landing, you know, because that guy has that old rotating flashing thing, not like an LED, but I don't know, especially if you're been asleep and then you see lights bouncing off your roof, like yellow lights. What? You know, what's happening? I woke up a couple of times, like, what the heck, you know? But anyway, so yeah, and then I realized, wait a second, there's York, Pennsylvania, which was just like 10 miles south of that 83 Diner. And York, PA, I checked my permit, there's a curfew from 7:30 to 9, and then in the evening. But what was important is that I had to cross it before 7:30. So I woke up at 6 o'clock, grabbed the coffee, and just drove through York on 83. And they have this big barbell place called York Barbell. You know, they make these kettlebells, everything, and they have a retail store there. And there's a big statue of a guy with a big barbell, and it's turning around, but it was so early that statue was stationary. Usually it keeps spinning, you know. It's on your east side of I-83. You can clearly see it when you, so when I was driving south, it was on my left-hand side. Anyway, but then of course there's a curfew in Baltimore. I cannot be on I-83 or, no, I-95 or I-695 in Baltimore before 9. So as soon as I passed York, I started looking, but there's a rest area, but it's only on the northern side. Like there's nothing on the for people going south. And there was a small truck stop, exit 4, I think it's called Tom's. And I checked my, before I left, I checked my tracker path, because it reports, you know, how many spots are available. And the last report was like 14 hours before, and it said lot full. That's not good, but you know, it was just 7 o'clock. I figured some people might have left, you know. Just like this 83 Diner, it was pretty full around 10 o'clock, but then when I woke up 6 o'clock, half of the people were gone, you know, because everybody's going somewhere, either to the port or north. And so so I stopped there. There were some spots in there, but the turns were so tight, you know. When I took the ramp, I saw that I couldn't make the turn. Like it was too narrow from the ramp on the road that goes to the truck stop. So I jumped out and lifted my axle, the rear axle, and was able to make the turn. And there were some spots in there, but I couldn't, there was not enough room for me to back, because, you know, I'm too long. it would be easier for a dry van, because dry vans, you know, the wheels are closer, right? My wheels are all the way in the back, so I just went straight into space thinking that I will back out. So I promptly arrived in the port right on time after the curfew was lifted. I was here at 9:30. Checked in, showed my my TWIG card. You know, you need an escort if you don't have the TWIG card. Transportation workers, industry, something. Identification card. And so I grabbed my paperwork. The step one was to cancel the bond, because this load, this excavator, travels in bond through US because its final destination is Africa, right? And so you have to cancel it over here in the port right next on behind me over there. There's US Customs. So you need to have multiple copies of the bond and multiple copies of the dock receipt. And I made sure I had both. They were, you know, legible. I go there and the guy looks at my dock receipt and he says, "This is not a dock receipt. This is a booking confirmation." And yeah, it does say in small letters on the piece of paper, booking confirmation. And he says, "Dock receipt looks like this." And he shows me exactly the same type of paper with the same information like my booking confirmation. Only on the top it says dock receipt. And he says, "No, I cannot stamp it. You have to go get the proper paperwork." Okay, so I go back in my truck because my printer is here, right? And I call dispatch and I say, "Hey, that's the wrong piece of paper. You have to send me the correct one, dock receipt." So I wait about half an hour. Email arrives. I print it out using my my handy HP printer, and I go back to US Customs, and there's another guy there now, and the guy looks at the dock receipt and he says, "Where's the consignee?" Like the field consignee is empty. It says TBA, to be, or TBD, whatever, you know. He says, "I cannot stamp it unless I know the consignee name, where it's going." I said, "Well, I know it's going to Africa, but isn't it enough? It shows the ship name, it shows the booking number." You know, I'm starting to losing it, right? The guy, you know, just, "Well, maybe you can send someone else to bring the paperwork, but we cannot do this. You know, we need the proper documentation." And he's, you know, has this steel face. So you cannot argue with the government, right? Okay, so back to my truck, placing a call again to dispatch, and I say, "Hey, guess what? So that's the wrong dock receipt. You need you need to fill in the consignee field." All right, so they got on it. I wait maybe 40 minutes. Another email arrives. I print it out, go back, and now I'm ready. The guy's gonna turn me away. No, he looks at it. He says, "Yeah, looks good." Boom, boom, boom. Stamps it. Stamps my my pass. Import authorized. So that's it. So now the bond is canceled. So for all intents and purposes, this excavator is on the ship. It's on the, because this is not part of US, like, you know, for the customs purposes, right? So it's like I left, the excavator left US. It went through USA in transit. But of course, by the time it was all done, it was 11:45, and the shed over here, we have to bring in the paperwork, you know, like people that stamp and sign the actual load paperwork, the port workers, they go on lunch at 11, what was it, 11, right? Yeah, 11, from 11 to, no, 11:30 to 1. 1.5 hours lunch, probably like a 5 or 6 course lunch, you know. But what do you do? And now all these guys, like, there was nobody here because everybody was unloaded before 11. It was empty. But I was just like 15 minutes late, and there's nothing you can do. You have to wait. So now it's 12:30 now. So 30 minutes more, and hopefully this is the right shed because there's another one, right? And I'm always mixing them up. Last time I was here, they sent me to the other one. Now I made sure it says shed 12. Okay, this is shed 12. All right. I asked the guy in front of me. He has this big box on his double drop trailer. He says, no, this is shed 12. Okay, we'll see. So if this is the correct shed, then the next clip you'll see is me driving off the excavator. And I'm gonna put my cam so it looks like this, right? Goes on my head on the right, and I try to do 1080p, by the way, with this. And this is the second time I noticed that the angle is supposed to be the same, the angle of view, but in 1080p it shows more. So you see like a piece of my head or my eyebrow or something, you know. So now I'm gonna do it in 720, just like I'm recording now with the Panasonic in 720. That seems to be, you know, a more useful format. Videos are smaller, especially when there's no movement. Like if I use 720 on a dash cam when the truck is moving, that is like a huge file. But you know, when it's something like this where I'm talking, or even when I'll be driving the excavator, there's not many things moving in the frame, and so the bit rate doesn't have to be high, right? So that's going to be a relatively small file. And now I got 16 gigabyte on my data plan. I had 10 before. After I switched to Rogers 10, I was going over. I called them. I said, what's the next one? They said either 11 or 16. I said, how about 12? 12 or 15? No. From 11, 16. I said, Jesus, okay, give me 16. So, because you know, when you do a big movie, that's what some people don't understand. Oh, why don't you do 1080p all the time? Well, because it's a huge file, and I cannot sit at my computer. You know, I love videos, I love YouTube, but I cannot sit like, you know, whole night. And plus, then you know, my data plan is going to be exhausted. So. Anyway, so 720p is I think good enough. You can watch it on a TV, on a big screen. It still looks good. Looks good on my smartphone. Looks good on my computer when I play it on my high resolution 15-inch MacBook. So should be okay. All right. What do we have here? 20 minutes to go? No, 30 minutes till the end of the lunch. should be good enough. Bye bye, cat. Heading to Africa.